the Town Centre Management Committee of Biggleswade Town Council. Just to remind everybody, to meeting attendees, that this is a formal meeting of the council. I can advise that members of the public will be given an opportunity to speak during the public open session, but not at other times. The meeting is being filmed, and by being present, attendees are deemed to have agreed to be filmed and to the use of those images and sound recordings. I can advise that attendees should not disclose any personal information of individuals, as this would infringe the data protection rights of that individual. And can I also ask, please, that everyone to mute their microphones when not speaking. Thank you. So first of all, moving on to apologies for absence. On my list, I've got Councillor Knight and Councillor Thomas. I'm aware that Councillor Patel contacted me separately, but I don't know if he's officially registered his apologies. But I'm also conscious that there are a few other councillors missing this evening as well, possibly because it's half term. I don't know if there's been any other apologies. No other apologies. Okay, so there's quite a few listed this evening. So,
Chairman.
Yes, Councillor Strong.
Councillor Patel indicated he was apologising that he wasn't going to be up here, and he apologised to you. I think that we can treat that as a proper apology rather than.
That's fine. If the committee are happy with that, I'm conscious that obviously some other members are not here as well, so
no,
I haven't apologised.
He has had the courtesy of letting you know, even though he may not have been able to let off.
That's fine.
So he should be recorded as absent with apologies.
Yes, no problem. That's fine. Thank you. Okay, so apologies for absence. Any declarations of interest? Pecuniary or non-pecuniary? Nope. Okay, thank you. Moving on. Number 3, Chairman's announcements. The only thing I wanted to say really this evening, it relates really to the last council meeting we had around the banking hub and sort of cash access. Obviously, there's a lot of interest in the town around the banking hub or a potential banking hub, and there's obviously a very rigorous process to go through with the cash access people. I'm hoping that we as a committee can sort of keep an eye on this as it hopefully progresses through, and maybe we can have it as a sort of standing item on TCM going forward if colleagues think that's a good idea. I don't think we need a resolution on it. I think we can put it on the agenda, but it's something I think that TCM in particular should be keeping an eye on looking forward. Councillor Strawn.
Just as a point of information there, you as chairman can put it on the agenda, so may I suggest that whilst you're chairman you do so.
I have every intention of doing so, Councillor Strawn. I was just trying to be open and transparent about where it may have come from, but thank you. I will do that do that from now on. Okay, so yeah, I think the banking hub has got some potential, and so we need to keep an eye on it. Okay, number 4, public open session. Have we got anybody in the gallery? And if you could give your name, please, that'd be great as well.
Yeah, of course. Hi, everyone. My name's Anna. I am the leader of the local LGBT plus group. I'm here today to make a plea to the council to seriously consider changing the flag policy that is prohibiting the council from flying the Progress Pride flag for Pride Month. Myself and the rest of the group, which is made up of about 30 people, were really disappointed that the motion wasn't fully passed in December. And I think that if the policies were changed so that the Progress Pride flag could be flown, it would really put Biggleswade on the map as an inclusive and diverse place to live and to visit. I think Pride events have a potential to bring a wealth of business to the local area. And Pride isn't just for LGBT plus people, it's for everyone to celebrate inclusivity and diversity and just authenticity. And I really think that the council should be supporting that in every way possible. Making the necessary changes to the policies that restrict flag flying would be a great way for the council to mark LGBT History Month, which is this month, and make the first step towards becoming a truly inclusive and proud Biggleswade. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Anna. Thank you. Is anyone online? No? Okay, great. Thank you. We don't have an invited speaker, so members' questions, if there are any. I think Councillor Skilton was just quickly, and then Councillor Strawn.
Thank you. I've got 3, if that's all right, Mr. Chair, sorry. Just the first one, I just wonder why Mr. Tarrant and Mr. Hassini are not here tonight as our, I believe, the town clerk and deputy town clerk, and we've got some quite weighty policy issues to discuss tonight. And I thought we had to have at least one of those present at a council meeting or committee meeting, and for them not to be here, I think is quite disappointing. So I just wanted to, and also, is that something that needs to go to personnel, that we need a policy to prevent that from happening? Because I think if you went to a big unitary authority, you wouldn't have the main deputy chief executive and chief executive at the same time.
Okay, I mean, I think that's a valid point. I mean, the town clerk did contact me in advance of the meeting, and I knew he was going to be here, as well as Mr. Saini, but obviously Mr. Bore's with us, who's also a senior officer on the council. However, I think it's probably worth raising with the chair of the personnel committee, and I'm sure they'd be interested in taking that forward, as to maybe looking at a potential policy around that. I think that would be worthy of consideration.
Okay, thank you.
So that's the first one.
That's the first one. Second one, I've been contacted by a resident, and I think other councillors have as well, regarding the car parks in Biggleswade, and the main one is Chestnut Avenue. They've raised concerns that there is no disabled parking there, and I think this has come up before because there isn't a compliant ramp down from that car park, but I wonder if it may be better to have something that allows for bigger parking spaces for people that are able to use the sort of, they're kind of like, it's like a ramp stair. And also, I don't know whether there's any potential to create a pedestrian ramp on the on-off ramp for the actual car park itself. And they also raise more generally that they think that our parking bays, our disabled parking bays, are inadequate in the rest of our car parks. And would it be possible well, I'm asking this as a council really, do we need to do an audit of our disabled parking facilities and make sure that we're compliant with current regulations and doing everything we can to facilitate disabled parking in our spaces?
I'll just comment on that one. I mean, I think they're all valid points. I mean, when you say about disabled parking bays, do you mean the width or the number of them, or what in what sort of?
I don't think there are any in Chestnut, if memory serves. I haven't had a chance to look, but I don't think there are. And there are prescribed recommended sizes for disabled bays.
I'm aware of that. I think Mr. Campbell wants to comment on that one.
Just briefly, yes, I replied to some of the question from Councillor Russell this morning. The car park spaces are compliant. There are no disabled spaces marked as such. The consideration would be that when we get around to repainting it, that we would look at enlarging some of the bays, especially for disabled parking, and mark them as such, and we'll try and place them nearer the new ticket machines. There are other questions about access paths and railings and such like, which are probably more highways and CBC than us.
Can we look at that then?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think we can take that away and look at it. I mean, I'm aware that I'm not quite sure what it's called, but the sloping path or the stepped path from Chestnut Avenue was meant to be being redone at some stage, but whether that can be considered in terms of making it more of a ramp. But there were issues about making it a ramp, I think, for people going onto the road and safety and other stuff. So I think there's obviously further conversation to have on that, but they're all useful points to take forward. And then the third one.
Thank you. Why is the town centre vision in exempt? I can't see anything in there that makes it justifiably exempt. And considering one of the recommendations is to bring it forward to another council meeting, I think if we could go public with that, it would give residents the opportunity to see it before we take it to the next council meeting for a final decision.
I think Mr. Bore's got an answer on that one.
The reason why it's in exempt is because it's still in the draft stage, and we are going to speak to few partners before we will make it public. So because it's still in the draft stage, we think at this stage there will be there's a possibility that it will change massively. So,
well, I don't think it being in the draft stage is grounds for it being exempt.
Okay. Well, I mean, yeah.
So can I move that we take it out of exempt then?
You can. I mean, I'll take Councillor Strawn's point, and then we'll come back to that. Councillor Strawn.
Councillor Skilton has raised a point that I was particularly concerned about. I've seen no grounds for it being exempt, just because it's at a draft stage. It is so important and fundamental for the basis of the town and the future of the town centre. Looking at us approving it, I think is totally wrong in private session at this stage. Of initial discussions, we've got something there. It's going to go back to council at some stage. There's no reason, in my view, it's being exempt. There's no financial implications in terms of quotes for works to be carried out or anything like that, I do not believe it is appropriate to have that as exempt unless the clerk or Mr. Burrett can give good grounds to the contrary. I'm more than happy to second Councillor Skilton's proposal.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, according to the exempt rules around this, there are things around consultation, negotiations, but I think in retrospect, I'm happy to take a vote on taking it out of exempt. I think that's a fair comment. I mean, if colleagues are happy to do that. So, okay. So what we'll do is then we'll now have a vote on it, and we'll probably have it at the end still. I'm not going to change the order of the meeting if that's where colleagues want to go. We'll still have it towards the end. But okay, Councillor Barrett.
Can I just make a point that
Yep.
all the papers are actually marked exempt, they're not marked draft. So if we're going to agree on that being brought back in, then we must agree also that everything on here is to be seen as draft.
Okay, that's okay. That seems a reasonable request, but okay. Okay, so I think, go on, Councillor Agnew. Yeah.
I suspect that the reason why we have it in exempt is because there was a staged approach as to how we were wanting to actually carry out the discussions around it. And my understanding from the papers was that the reason why we're not bringing it into public today is because it becomes the known fact and the public will start commenting on the things that perhaps we are not still in agreement about. Am I right or wrong?
Well, I think it would be quite a good thing for the public to be able to comment on it at this stage. We've had this is the third time to my knowledge, it's come to council or committee, every time in exempt. We've spent 6 months last year in a working group getting a version done, which was then rejected. And we're now at this stage, and I think it is now time for the public to see it.
Okay. All right, well, we'll have a vote anyway on whether we take it out of exempt, I guess. And I suppose I'll put it forward. Well, you've got your motion, haven't you, Councillor Skilton? So, okay, all those in support of Councillor Skilton's motion, please put your hands up. Okay, so that's in, okay, and all those against? So that's 1. Okay, so it's carried. So we'll take it at the end of the meeting out of exempt session and regarded as draft, as I think as Councillor Barrett advised. Okay, all in agreement. Great. Thank you very much. Okay, no more members' questions. Was there Councillor Strawn? Did you have any more members? You have a members' question? No.
Councillor Skilton beat me to it.
Great. Thank you very much. Thank you. Right, minutes and recommendations of the previous meetings. Okay, so this was the one on the 29th of October, which seems rather a long time ago now, but so we'll just go through it for sort of accuracy and then for sort of recommendations afterwards, if that's okay, or matters arising. Page 6. No. Page 7. Page 8. Page 9. Page 10. And then page 11. Okay, great. Okay, so we'll now go through them again for any points of accuracy and then matters arising. Okay. So
if we've approved them, we've agreed the accuracy.
Okay.
It's a question of now whether there's anything arising.
Okay. Okay, if there's anything arising then, colleagues, page 6. No. Page 7. Councillor Strawn.
Item 8B, accessibility of pedestrian walkways. Has anything been received because it was going to be chased?
That's a question for the officers here. I think does that refer to Councillor Albone's original question? I think it did about Crab Lane Bridge, but that
Quite
might
possibly,
be a
but
guess.
It doesn't actually make it clear there.
No, that's true. It isn't very clear, but that would be my guess. But yeah, officers, have we had any response back from? I think it's either Network Rail or Central Beds. I'm not quite sure exactly which agency it was.
I have no knowledge or further information, I'm afraid.
Okay. Okay. Funder, can we just chase that up at some as a sort of action? Thank you. The only other one I wanted to raise was 8A was around obviously Lloyds Bank Biggleswade closing on Fridays. It's closing permanently in November, so that's kind of shows you how things are moving on. Nothing else on page 7? Nope. Page 8. Nine. Mr. Campbell, I don't know whether in relation to 10B, whether you want to make members aware of the date of the next business forum, or was that still being discussed?
I think we've got as far as saying April at the moment, and we've reached out for a key speaker, and that should have come back to us in 3 weeks, so probably into week 4 by now, and they haven't got back to us.
Okay, all right, thank you. Page 10. Page 11. Okay, great. Thank you very much. Right, items for consideration then. Advertising and sponsorship policy 9A. Who's taking that one? Is that you? Yeah.
I'm afraid I'm taking most of them tonight. Yes.
Fair enough, thank you.
Yeah, advertising and sponsorship reports. We've historically operated without an advertising and sponsorship policy. We've identified that there were opportunities for the town council to consider accept offers of appropriate sponsorship and advertising. We think it could be an important addition to the town council budget and will offset some of our loss-making events. We've set out some principles in the report, and that really is all I need to say at the moment, I think.
Yep, Councillor Barrett.
It's just a comment on page 16 of our pack.
Okay.
4E in the policy. The town council has a duty to seek best value for money. Town clerk will provide expertise on whether advertising is the most appropriate market communication. I'm not sure the town clerk will have the expertise unless.
Okay.
I wonder what that section is trying to achieve.
Mr. Campbell, can you sort of shed any light on that?
I think you might call it an aspiration.
Okay. Go on, Ernest.
Sorry, were you referring to 10? 4E. It's just setting out it's discretion for the town clerk to decide on what the council does basically, but that can be reworded in a better form rather than the current state.
Thank you.
Yeah, Councillor Barrett. Yeah.
I think suggest someone takes a look at that section again, please, just to try and understand what it's seeking to achieve. Whether it is to achieve, the town clerk will make a decision on whether or not advertising is the appropriate, or whether I don't think the expertise is the right wording.
Yes, I think it's possibly the best medium rather than expertise, but I'll let others draft that bit. Councillor Skilton, please.
Thank you. So this seems to be a bit of a bugbear of mine, is when we get these policies on a Thursday and it's half term. I mean, I haven't got kids, but I have been away and I didn't get a chance to look at this until last night. And I've got quite a few various bits. Some of them are typos, some of them are policy issues. So I think it'd be nice to be able to have this as track changes and to come back to a future committee meeting, which we've done for other policies. Because there are obviously Councillor Barrett's raised one there. I'd like, examples of some of the things we will and won't do. What is a socially undesirable act? Things like that. And so I think I'd like a chance to actually comment with track changes and then get a more final document. So I'm
okay.
happy.
I mean, I hear what you're saying. I mean, I think yes, yeah, there's a lot in here, isn't there, in terms of sort of wanting to sort of going granular. Councillor Foster, please.
I have to say, I think the intention is
Yeah.
good. I think the broad principle of the policy document is good. I think, as Councillor Skilton said, there's a few things in there that are that need looking at. And one that did strike me, given that under sponsorship, one of the last item, decisions on sponsorship opportunities will be taken by an appropriate committee, but approaches by potential sponsors must be through the town clerk who will determine the route of the decision in line with the policy. So the town clerk's deciding where it goes, but the committee is deciding whether it's going to go to the committee anyway. So that's an example of where the wording doesn't seem to work. So I think Councillor Skilton sort of hit the nail on that. I think it's again good document, and I think we absolutely need to do this. But let's just make sure we don't tie ourselves in knots with some of the wording and just get it a bit cleaner. Does it need to come back to another committee? Are we looking for this committee, or do we think it could go to council? Would be my only question. Is there an urgency to do this? And that's really for officers to give us a guidance. I'm not sure it does. But if it's not urgent enough, I think the only thing that, given that we've got events coming up, whether the sooner we've decided the policy, it then allows officers to make sort of progress opportunities, which currently they really can't happen until we've got the policy in place. So I guess I'm sort of trying to be guided by what other people think, really.
Oh, good points. Councillor Straw and then Councillor Agnew.
I think it does need to come back when had a better opportunity, and given councillors the opportunity, including all councillors, not just this committee, have had a chance to make observations. I'll just make a couple of observations as examples at the moment. On page 15, section 2, sponsorship, it says this is a contractual arrangement between parties whereby one meets all the costs, and it could be all or part of the costs, as just a silly little bit there, being slightly pedantic. Going on to page 17, 6A, responsibilities. This policy applies to all employees, volunteers and councillors, but not to advertisers or sponsors. Little things like that. And again, it's just defining this. So I think it does warrant it. But I think we could hopefully get it through to a full council in a month or 2 months' time, rather than necessarily waiting if people have had the opportunity to have had it distributed sooner rather than later, so that everybody can make the observations to the officers to coming back with track changes from where we start.
Thank you. Councillor Agnew.
I just wanted to remind us that we didn't have consensus some meetings ago about track changed documents and how do we deal with them in a public forum. So given the TCM meeting will not happen anytime soon, I'd propose to keep the track changes, but keep the changes within the document in amongst us, say, for example, until the next full council, rather than waiting. But yeah, I would rather not bring to the council the track change document itself, but maybe a changed version of it, reviewed between ourselves when we have gotten some time and ability to actually give meaningful comments, so that the discussions like that are a little bit shorter and more efficient.
Okay. I'm just trying to think of a way forward with this one then. We do have, I think, a TCM meeting in April, which is still before many of the sort of events occur. But if colleagues want to obviously speed up that process, I haven't got the dates off the top of my head, but there are obviously other council meetings before that. I mean, I can make a sort of proposal, I guess, from the chair, but it's whether other colleagues want to do that in terms of whether we, as a committee, want to submit the corrections, changes, etc., and then we take it to a further council meeting, or how do we want to play it? Councillor Foster?
I'm just thinking, if it's April and it's prior to most of the sort of the key events, perhaps that's the way forwards then. So on that basis, rather than bring it to the next council, that I propose that the document is circulated to all members of the council to review, and then that this item comes back to the next TCM meeting in April.
Seconded.
Right, all those in favour? Right, unanimous. Thank you very much. Great. Okay, thank you very much. We are on to 9B, flag flying policy. Councillor Skelton.
Thank you. It's good to see that this policy has been brought to this committee, and there is definitely some more progressive aspects to it than in the previous policy, which is heartening. But again, it's another policy that's come to the committee when we haven't had a chance to see it in advance. So I'd like to move that we do the same as with the previous policy. And I think there are also links between the two policies, because a recommendation in this is to take a particular type of flag category as an advertisement. And I mean, it is a stunning coincidence there's an advertisement policy in the very item before. Cynical people might think that that was deliberate, but anyway, that I think we need to look at this at the next TCM.
Okay, any other questions? Councillor Strawn.
Yes, no difficulty with the idea of that going back and having a bit more time. But what really puzzled me is on page 25, we can fly the flag of St David, we can fly the flag of St Patrick, but we do not appear to be able to fly the flag of St George or the flag of St Andrew. That strikes me as most peculiar, that we can't even fly the St George's flag according to that, if I've interpreted it correctly. But that's an observation which perhaps officers could look at.
Of course, we do have a St Andrew's flag on the other flagpole within the town, which is nothing to do with the town council, which is above the church, of course. But that's out with this policy anyway. Sorry, yeah, Councillor Foster and then Councillor Barrett.
I understand the thing about St George. I think it does reference it on page 24, first paragraph, second paragraph under other flags. So I think it's highlighting additional flags that don't need consent rather than the only one. So accept the point, but but the point about the flag of St Andrew, I don't think is shown in either place. So it does need review, I think.
Just clarify the point about St George. It says on the 23rd of April, which is the one day. So the other ones are all the year round, as theoretically.
No, and I think I mean, I do commend Mr. Campbell for pulling the report together, because there are lots of obviously government guidance on this, and then there's sort of locally accepted guidance and all sorts of other bits that have been trying to sort of craft together. So I think the problem is there are some contradictions within it. But any more? Sorry, Councillor Barrett, and then Councillor North, please.
Okay, page 29. In the what we're calling sort of item C, overall, the first thing, no advertisement may exceed 0.6 square metres. Our flags, I think, are much bigger than that overall. So I think it'd be nice to get some clarity over this, because in some of the wording here, it talks about CBC actually fly their flag based on the advertisement approach. So I'd like to understand how they can fly the normal size flag in those situations. So could we get some clarity from officers around that, please? Yeah. And also on item 6 there, it talks about advertisements can't be any higher than a certain height. I don't know the height of our flagpoles, but it would seem silly if we can only put the flag sort of 3/4 of the way up the pole. So could we get some clarity on that as well, please?
Okay, no, two very good questions. I'll get Mr. Campbell to try and respond to those, and then I'll come back. Actually, no, Councillor North, and then I'll get Mr. Campbell to respond and give him a couple of minutes extra.
Right, thank you, Chairman. We have a report here from Mr. Campbell. The recommendation, it says adopt it using the option 2 CBC dispensation for category C flags. And I just do not understand what that means. If Ian can perhaps explain it to us.
Okay, so a couple of questions there for officers. Does anybody else want to speak, or they've all made comments? Okay. I'll let Mr. Campbell speak when he's got a moment. I know it's quite a sort of probably more technical policy than it ought to be, but it's yeah.
If we're gonna do this, I've got loads more stuff to say then.
Okay, well let Mr. Campbell respond, and then I can come back to you.
Right, yeah, I think the points about size of the flags and heights of flag poles and the rest of it pertaining to advertising.
Sorry, can
Yeah.
I just, sorry, I should have
Councillor
said,
Barrett,
I
yep.
didn't mean for them to be clarified now, I meant them to be clarified at a later date.
Okay, that's fine.
Assuming we're going to be talking about this policy again, sorry.
Yes,
I
no,
should
that,
make
that's
clear.
okay. I wasn't
We
sure.
don't need the
I thought if you had the
detailed
facts to
responses now.
hand, you could have them, but it's okay. Councillor Foster.
So given that we're talking about having to the next committee, one of the things I think we should make sure we do, we agree some sort of timeline so that members of this committee have the document, have a link to it, so that there's a shared document that everyone can feed into. So from Chairman, if you wouldn't mind, so making sure that the link comes to all members of the committee, but I think probably all members of the council actually would be helpful, but we agree a timeline so that we know where it has to be completed by, and at that point, if there's any additional feedback, well, it's too late, but
Yeah.
we're quite clear on when we're having it done by, so to help the committee clerk.
No, that sounds very reasonable. And yeah, okay. Councillor Skilton, you had any more points you wanted to raise?
No, just that I agree with Councillor Foster, and that we have that for both policies that we're going to consider.
Okay,
obviously.
great. And Councillor Strawn, last word, and then we'll take you to a vote.
Councillor North.
Well, yeah, I haven't had a
Sorry,
response to my question yet, sir. Chairman.
Okay. Okay. If you can try and summarise it then, Mr. Campbell, Councillor North's question, and then I accept the rest of the points. We'll then
If
come back
I've got
to
the right
policy.
question, I'd refer you to page 20, halfway down the page, government DCMS guidance. Town council accepts and approves lists A and B as listed by DCMS, see Appendix B. On category C flags, members need to decide on one of the following two viable options. List C requires planning consent from the town council, in this case from CBC. The stipulations described in the regulations. Each application would be a one-off with an associated £60 cost with a 6-week decision timeline. Option 2, which I think is being colloquially referred to as the advertising flag mechanism, gives you the option to fly a category C flag by exception. And that includes the progress flag relating to an advertising flag's dispensation. CBC has confirmed that it flies the progress flag outside Priory House HQ at Chicksands using this option.
Does that help, Councillor North? Okay.
No.
Councillor Strawn.
To avoid the debate going on any further, I actually, it may be my eyesight, but there was reference to Appendix C, and I struggled to find Appendix C clearly marked.
It's on page 28. With the C at the top of the page, says flags which require consent.
Right, so let's just
And that's okay.
Obviously, my eyesight has failed totally on that respect.
It's okay. I think some of the typeface has changed throughout the document, but that, again, that's
on the copy of
so page 28, top C, flags which require consent.
So but it's not, doesn't say Appendix C.
No, it does not as explicit in that sense, but it does have.
No, I
okay.
see that, but I was looking specifically for Appendix C, and I think it needs to be. Okay, that would be if it could be clarified for next time.
Okay, I think we'll note that, Councillor Strawn. Councillor Foster.
So absolutely, all of those points need to be brought up as part of the track change, and then when they come, so do we? What timeline are we talking about? Should we agree at a timescale that this needs to be done by? So, Chairman, you're going to do that. So I think there's no point going any further detail. Let's bring it back to the next time we're going to review it.
Yeah. Do you want me to give a timeline now, or should I discuss it offline and we'll do it to email members of the committee and give people a deadline that way?
Should we email to members, but have a great timeline, and then after that it's at the meeting otherwise, but we prefer it beforehand.
Okay, so all those funder, have you got all? Who've captured all of the things we need to change? Ernest, you're very clear about what we need to bring into the new or a refreshed document. Okay,
do you want to amend it?
Great. So. There was an amendment, I think. Yeah.
So
I think Councillor Foster made an amendment.
It wasn't intentional, so I don't want to overrule. You're happy with that, Councillor Skilton?
So it's coming back to the next TCM in April?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank
you. So that wasn't abundantly clear to me.
Yeah, a refreshed document and allowing colleagues to input in the meantime. Yeah, I think I've understood that correctly.
Yes.
Great. Okay. All those in favour? Thank you. That's unanimous. Thank you very much. Okay, 9C, shop window competition.
That would be me again.
Thank you.
A member has suggested the idea of running a shop window competition. Officers will work with the chair and the deputy chair of TCM to scope out the concept. Competition will be promoted well using regular media channels. It would be run for a season commencing in March this year. Judging would be conducted by the mayor, deputy mayor, chair and deputy chair of TCM. If it works out, we hope to make it an annual feature.
Councillor North, then Strawn and Barrett.
We used to do this in connection with the Christmas light switch on. And it was abandoned after a number of years for one very good reason. And that was that the same person kept winning it year after year after year. It was the same winner. And I suspect the same thing would happen again. So as stated, I disagree with this, but it may be possible to do it on the basis of different categories of shop. That's what would be my suggestion. So yes, you have a clothes shop category, which is always won by the same person. Okay, but then you have I don't know, a florist shop or a supermarket or I don't know, whatever you may think of, or a bank. Not that there are any banks, of course. So maybe you don't need that category. But something like that, because the point is, if the same person wins it over and over all the time, then nobody else bothers. And that's what was beginning to happen. And that's why we stopped doing it.
Okay, that's an interesting point, Councillor North. I think it's something we can consider. I don't think that's, in my opinion, that isn't a reason not to consider, not to do it at all, but it's something that I think we need to mitigate against. Councillor Foster.
Oh, sorry, Councillor Strawn was sorry.
It was Councillor Strawn, it's my fault. Councillor Strawn, Barrett, then Foster. Thank you.
I think the concept is right in theory. Councillor North has raised the practicality. It has happened in the past. We also need to consider the extent of the town centre for these purposes and whether in fact it might be fitted in with another event such as Christmas lights, or indeed say with something with the carnival to add something else during the carnival week so that we have the shops participating, because there is an item on the agenda later about the carnival, which I'm not sure whether that refers to the carnival parade or whether there's going to be other events other than the duck race included. But I think the concept's ideal, but it needs to be looked at in a bit more detail and clarification, such as reasons Councillor North has expounded, and also to see whether we can tie it in something else that might actually make a better week, say if it was a carnival week.
On that, actually, Councillor Strawn, one of my suggestions, which hadn't quite made it to the paper, but where I discussed informally with Mr. Campbell and others, was to tie in with the Victory Day event we're having on the 5th of July. There's an obvious theme there, you know, and every business and it isn't just shops, actually. I mean, I know that when we have remembrance, some of the job agencies and estate agents get involved as well. So it isn't just retail. There are lots of other businesses that could do this, that have got a window or a shop window in the town. So I think I'd be keen certainly to have it on the Victory Day event in July, but there will be others, as you say, carnival and so on as well. Councillor Barrett and then Councillor Foster.
It was just to say I would like it if it just said it was town shop window competition rather than town centre. There are other shops.
Fair point. Councillor Foster.
My key points were made, so I'm on that basis, I'm going to make the proposal that we adopt the recommendation as laid out and enable officers to develop and deliver the concept. And that will include then dealing with the points that have been raised by others.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Great. All those in favour? Unanimous again. Thank you very much. Ian, you got all those points? Yeah. Great. I think we can work on that. It's great. Okay, 9D, Christmas lights tender. I think I've seen this paper somewhere before, but we'll have another discussion tonight. Over to you, Helen.
Thanks. Oh yes, so the tenders specification was presented at the meeting council meeting last week, and it was recommended to present it here at the meeting this evening to discuss any additions to the specification. So I'm seeking members' suggested additions to this specification, and then I will add these onto the tender, and the plan is to put onto the government's contract finder platform as soon as possible.
Okay, thank you, Helen. Thank you for pulling all this together as well. Councillor Strong.
Yes, an observation, Chairman. We had a discussion at Town Council about this, and I'm disappointed in a way that we haven't had some of the observations that were made in the Town Council meeting incorporated. I'm looking particularly at page 40, the very top, the second line, the lights must be removed by January the 6th in their entirety, where I raised the issue there that whilst we don't necessarily want the lights on and we can just switch off the electricity is the easiest way to deal with that. The penalty, there's penalties here if they don't remove them on by the 6th of January. And I said that it would not preclude them moving them earlier within the 12 days of Christmas. So that needs to be clarified that they should not be removed before a certain date, even though it might say the lights will be switched off on the 12th of January, but they should be given an opportunity to move it. I think to put that in and have that as a penalty is totally unreasonable. But as I say, that and other points were raised last week, and I'm slightly disappointed there's no mention of that in today's report.
Yeah, no, I think you're right, Councillor Strawn. There are a couple of points I had noted in the documents that went out that I know I raised personally at the meeting last week, which haven't been incorporated as well, but I will raise those separately if nobody else picks them up. Councillor Barrett.
I agree wholeheartedly with those comments. One extra thing I think we picked up on the lessons learned discussions was that there should be a single point of contact on the day, not just from the council, but I'd also like to propose that is actually included in the tender document that whoever wins this, there's a single point of contact from their point of view as well. So those two people are liaising and then passing things backwards and forwards.
Thank you. That's a good point that I don't think was entirely captured last week as well. Any other questions? Councillor Foster, sorry.
So not questions. I think the points have been made, but I think the installation deadline, I think that's fair to have some sort of clause in there, but the removal shouldn't be in there. And I think I'm not sure why it's necessary to have this particular deadline, given that we've got lots of other town council, lots of other organisations that will also be doing Christmas lights. I think we may be putting ourselves in a position where nobody's going to want to sort of put a tender forward on the basis they've got to achieve an unrealistic deadline. So I think we need to be mindful of what the deadline needs to be. For me, I'm not sure that it needs to, if we were to say something like the 18th of January or something like that, that's still reasonable. That gives maybe 2 weeks after the 6th of January is perfectly reasonable. And that's something that any company should be able to achieve. At that point, then maybe that's appropriate to have some form of penalty, but straight after the 6th of January, I don't think is realistic. I take on board Councillor Strawn's point about it not being included. I would like to just talk about the design brief, but before we do that, I think, is there anything else anybody wants to talk about on the pages 40 and 41 before we go there? I just wondered whether we should do that first and then deal with the design afterwards.
I think, Councillor Foster, the only 2 points I was going to raise around the timescales were, I think we'd been very explicit last week around the installation of any lights has to be after Remembrance weekend, or certainly Armistice if that comes after Remembrance weekend. And I don't think that was overly clear from my reading of this. And also the town clerk agreed at the meeting last week to scope out potential laser lights within the bid as well as part of the Christmas offer, which I didn't see in here either. So I think we need to have another look at those as to whether we do or don't take that separately, but the town clerk agreed to my comment about that it should be included. So I think we need to have another look at that. So over to you, Councillor Foster.
So I was just going to say, by doing that, and I completely agree with the point about not having the lights up before Remembrance, it just depending on when the lights need to be up, and we're saying that for this year it needs to be up by, so our switch on is the 28th, it still gives effectively 3 weeks. Or maybe 2.5 weeks. So I think that's not an unrealistic timeline. So we're saying anything after I can't remember what the date Remembrance Day is this year, is it 9th? So in which case that should give enough time for any contractor to do that. So anything after the 9th is acceptable. If it means that Armistice Day they're being done, we could obviously avoid the 11th if possible, but the 10th could be acceptable. But I think it's right to have some form of penalty for after the event, but not beforehand, and be very clear that we can't have them taken around on the 4th or 3rd. So no, not on that. No, just
this is drawn. Sorry,
just noting the 11th of November is a Tuesday, so the Remembrance Day parade will be the 9th.
Correct. Yes.
So, but the actual Remembrance Day is the 11th. So
Yes.
it should be from the 12th of November onwards. In terms of the period, that because we usually do have something on the 11th on the Market Square.
Yeah. Okay. 12th of November onwards, it still gives you another 16 days before the light switch on at thereabouts. So yeah, thank you. Any other questions, comments? No. Councillor Barrett. Yeah.
Well, it's just to clarify if we are including all of the extra bits and pieces that we just discussed in this tender document. In which case, is there time to then agree and make changes for those things to go ahead on the 19th of February?
No, because I think there are some outstanding items that obviously members have raised that I don't think it is entirely been captured within the document.
I think I'm
but
proposing that we don't agree to the policy tonight and we have to move it.
Unless anybody else. Go on, Councillor Foster and then Councillor Strong.
I mean, we've highlighted some of the key points that need to be on here. I think as long as we're ensuring that the officers have actually got those points recorded, which I think we've got 3 officers here, that as long as those items are recorded, I don't see any reason why the tender should be delayed. If and on the basis that if there's an identification, let's say of an issue, members take the opportunity to look at the tender document at some point in the future, that can be withdrawn. But I think we're sort of maybe doing the discredit to the officers, and we're making notes. I think we should just move ahead where possible.
Okay, Councillor Strawn.
On the spirit of that, and there were a couple of points that Councillor Foster might want to raise with regard to the specification, which would be part of that. But what I would effectively propose, subject to having that discussion, is that, if I go back to the relevant part, we approve the Christmas light tender document subject to amendments and subject to officers consulting with the chairman of the committee so that it could be placed on the contract finder platform from the 21st, which is Friday, if that's feasible, or would you chairman want a little bit of extra breathing space or officers breathing space, because it's important we get it out sooner rather than later.
agree. Yeah.
But I think we ought to, because of the issues that have been raised tonight, I think it would be appropriate for you, Chairman, and possibly even your Vice Chairman, just to have a quick run through with officers once they've had the opportunity to take on board today's observations, and I'd move on that basis.
No, I think that's absolutely right, Councillor Straw, and I think possibly maybe give officers a week to sort of pull this together, and then I'll review it. So where are we then after that? That will be the 25th or something like, no, yeah, thereabouts of February onwards.
I agree.
Yeah.
Could we just make sure as part of that the comments that were made at council and all the additional items are also captured as well?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I can't remember them all that were made on that evening.
No, there were quite a few. You're quite right, Councillor Barrett. There were a few captured, so maybe you need to let's have another look at that meeting again. But if I can give officers then say a week, 7 days to review that, and then if they can be in contact with me, so next week, and we'll have a look, even if it's just looking at documents online or whatever. And I think Councillor Patel will be around as well at some stage then to have a look at that after taking all these things into consideration. Councillor Skilton.
This isn't really in relation to the document specifically, but more around the meetings and things. This is my 3rd Christmas this will be here, and it always seems like we're very close to Christmas when we start getting things agreed. And our last TCM meeting was at the end of October, and so we've then gone quite a long way after the light switch on before we've started looking at other options. So do we need to look at the meeting scheduling to see if we can have a TCM straight after light switch on, to sort of look at, maybe have one of these ready to go almost as the lights are being turned on?
We can probably look at that. Mr. Campbell, have you got any comments on that?
Just a quick comment, which is that the entire Christmas lighting sector goes on holiday after Christmas. So, and there's trade shows and the rest of it, so it's hard to do anything January into February.
All right, but I agree, we do need to get this tender out pretty quickly. Councillor Strawn.
Observation, I understand where Councillor Skilton's coming from, but this is a 3-year contract, so that's whilst it may have more greater relevance in future, the sweep up element after the meeting is appropriate after the Christmas lights have been switched off, rather than immediately they've been switched on, because we need to do that. But this is a 3-year contract that we're looking at rather than a 1-year contract. So it's not, the urgency is to get the tender document out.
No, absolutely, and of course, you know, the deputy chair and myself have had have had wash-up meetings with the staff to talk about, and also with Councillor Barrett was involved as well, after the events, you know, last year. But if we need a more formalised TCM meeting on that issue, then we can look at that nearer the time. But I think in terms of the actual lighting contract, we do need to get that out, certainly, you know, towards the end of Feb, so in the next sort of 10 days or so. Okay, are we all clear with what's going on? Okay, so all those in favour of, was there a proposal? Oh, sorry. Yep, okay, we can do that. We can talk about the design brief, and we'll come to the other bits.
Chairman, one of the things that strikes me is the documentation we have in front of me. So I'm now talking on page 46. Because of the way that the document's been printed, it doesn't actually show the map doesn't show right the way up to what would have been the old Red Lion. And I know on the original document that we had, it did show lights going up there, and it did document all 24, the positions, all 24 lights that are proposed as part of the specification. This doesn't do that, in that it misses off some of the positions at the top end of the high street. So that said, I don't think it's detrimental in relation to this, but we just need to be careful. The same thing applies to some of the other documents. Actually, they've been printed so that you can't view them properly. What I would like to do is, part of the reason this was brought back to this committee was for us to scope out any additional light locations that we might want to include, so that could be part of the tender proposal, albeit we're looking for if the idea is that we have the main 24, but we also scope out additional lights around, potentially on Station Road, and potentially on the additional on Hitchin Street, and maybe on Shortmead. But at the moment, we need some clarity. I mean, I have to say, I'm not a great fan of the festoons. I think the way that the festoons work, because you've got it's not all the way down the high street. Not to say I'm not a great fan. What I mean is I'd prefer to have them so that they're all the way along the high street. I appreciate that that's not possible because of the way the walls that we've got and the building, so that's not ideal. I think when we've done it in the past, actually having the street lamps and having just so that the lights on the lampposts, you get a more uniform feel to it. If push came to shove, I'd be quite happy not to have the festoons. But I appreciate this is what's in the tender document. I would much rather have more lights further down the high street and along Station Road, and sacrifice festoons on the basis that you get more lights across the whole area. And it just feels a little bit, I'm trying to think of the appropriate wording, it's sort of half and half. And I don't personally like the half and half effect. I'd rather have it more lights across the whole town, but I know that's not sort of everyone's point of view. But certainly we need to be looking at additional lights down the high street, so down Station Road, and maybe we're looking at perhaps 2 or 3 down Station Road, or 2 or 3 down Hitchin Street.
Okay, as I say, Councillor Strawn. And I'll come back to you on if you've got any more design points.
I quite like Councillor Foster's points here, because Councillor Russell and Council raised the issue about lights further down the high street. And certainly I'm disappointed that we haven't got the full plan with all the lights, because it doesn't show it doesn't show everything that should be there. And if that's a tender document, that will create problems. But if Councillor Foster, I didn't look on it online to see the plans, but there were comments made about very much on Councillor Foster's line.
It does show all the lights that are supposed to be part of the spec. I've just taken a screenshot of where they'd be. So all 24 of the yellow lampposts, they're all there. Obviously, if we go further up the roads, then I'll stretch out the map so you can see any additions we add.
Go on.
You want to correct, but on the original drawing, I'm pretty sure there were additional ones right up to the red line. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. So there's 24 on the drawing. There were additional ones that this goes up to part of the way along the railway bridge, but there were additional ones further up on the original drawing. So and this only shows 21 rather than 24. So whether I think that the point is here, and I don't want to disagree with you, Helen. So I think if I'm wrong, that's fine. But I think whether they're on or not, I think on the original drawing it showed them, which is fine. And I think Councillor Russell hadn't picked up on the fact they were there, so they were actually on the drawing. The 24 were there. My main issue is the fact that we were looking to have additional ones down Station Road. So if we could build in some additional specification for Station Road and maybe a few street lights down into Shortmead Street, maybe an additional 3 in each. I think that's an additional spec. It may mean that we've got to build the extra electrical points within that. But if we do it this year, and then it's available for future use. So the other thing I'd like to sort of mention is given that quite like the idea of having, you've got warm light here. I just want to make sure that if we've got warm lights on the Christmas tree and we've got warm lights on all the trees, which is fine, we just need to make sure then that the other lights fit with that theme, because when it clashes, it looks a more sort of cohesive design if you've got the lights on the lamps, on the street lamps, and the lights on the trees, and everything sort of ties in. I'm not sure that I've read what the design of the street lamps look like. It doesn't. See these here, you've got sort of they're not a warm light, or partly warm light on one of them, and the other one is not a warm light. It's the what you call it, bright light. I don't want it to be too dull, but at the same time, I think you want to try and have it so that it all sort of flows together with flashes of colour, rather than the whole festoon thing for me. Just the way we've got them at the moment just feels a little bit. It's not joined up. Like the fact that we've got this design, so the festoons this time, we're not proposing having colour in quite the same way. So I think that will fit in with the theme. I'm maybe waffling a bit here now, but I think you understand my point. Is try to have additional lights that the things all sort of work together, and that's the whole idea from my point of view.
Okay, so complementary to each other. Yeah. That's all right. Okay, any more questions or comments on this? Councillor Skilton.
Yeah, I just wondered how fixed we are on that sort of positioning and things like this, and at what point might we need to kind of look at building fixings and things like that, because now they've taken the trees out of I don't know what that little bit's called outside Rosso Lounge where the cars park. That there is quite bare now, where there used to be a couple of trees that we had lights in, and actually that might be somewhere if you could rig it somehow to get festoons close together to give almost like a grotto effect as you're going down or up. And there's also, you can get things, I think they're called gobos, and they're a projector, and you project them onto, say, Market House or the White Hart or the big theatre building, and wash the building with light, and you can even say messages or have even the images, and they're not that expensive in the scheme of, well, in the scheme of some councils, I guess. But there are things like that you can do, and maybe that's something we might need to consider.
On your latter point, that was partly where I was going with the sort of laser lights idea, sort of combine that together, and they could work in areas, as you say, that are not covered as well by the other lights or festoons or whatever. So I think that's something as a package we could consider. Councillor Barrett, then Councillor Strawn.
I think we're going to have to create a tender that is easy to understand for someone to be able to price against. I agree with Councillor Foster that perhaps looking at lights in the other streets is useful, but I think we should be asking the supplier to actually price those separately so we can actually look at those items. And I think the earlier points around all these additional sort of laser lights and things could also be priced separately as well. But I think the core of what we want with the right type of lights, complementary, should be part of the main tender. And then we can ask for these additional items as well to keep it simple. It also will help us when we're actually reviewing it when the price it all comes back.
Okay. Now, Councillor Strawn.
I think Councillor Barrett's quite correct in that respect, because we've got to have the basic tender, so we've got Christmas lights. If we faff around with all the little niceties that we might add like as add-ons, we won't get there. So we must have the basic tender agreed, and then options as to we may be open to additional bits for this. So it could always be added to it. So if you said lights down Station Road, that could be a separate section for a quote, but we must have the basic tender in for the town centre.
Okay, great. Councillor Foster.
To be fair, I entirely agree on that. I didn't express myself clearly enough, but I think you're right. You have the basic tender, but additional items. I personally don't agree with actually having the laser light as part of the specification. I understand that's probably not going to be voted. I think it's an event and should be treated as an event. I think that's the way that Helen was approaching it previously. I would much rather it was dealt with on as part of the event budget rather than the Christmas light budget. But I understand that that's not necessarily the way we're going to go. So maybe we build it as an additional item. So we go the main lights, the 24 lights. We do additional lights in Station Road, say 3 in Station Road, 3 in Shortmead Street as a separate item, and then a laser light item as a separate item. So they are priced separately. But that then allows us to look at the laser light as part of an event budget as well. You see, you've got a couple of options there rather than it being restricted into one. It's essentially the same tender, but broken into other elements.
I second that proposal.
I was going to say that sounds a very sensible way forward, Councillor Foster. We've got a seconder. Okay, try and sum that one up now. I think to go forward then, the tender as we discussed. This is the basic tender with the bolt-ons, and then obviously that's going to go out next week. But we need a discussion, the chair and deputy chair before that, just to finalise everything. I think that's how we discussed. Go on, sorry, Helen.
Just going to say we're saying 3 additional, say, lamppost motifs in the 3 different roads. We're happy just to agree with the chair what lamps. I think the first lamps is you come into that road probably. But
yeah, I mean, if anybody feels strongly, please email me about it in terms of locations, and we can then, you know. But yeah.
What I was going to say, and I think one of the things that we were looking to do was actually to come back to a working group or so. So, and I can't remember the number of people that were looking to assess the tenders once they came in. So I think there were 4 or 5 of us that agreed to support that. So that again, when that comes back, it would be good to see what design as part of that tender process, what designs come back from the prospective suppliers, and then the committee then has that group of people sort of makes a decision on what the way we're going to go.
And the laser lights, are we actually adding that in? And if so, do we want to say what dates and the details there? Or?
I have to say, I mean, my preference isn't to do that within this thing, but I understand that that's no. So I'm not sure. What...
Yeah, I mean, on that, I mean, I guess it's ultimately for TCM to decide, but I mean, it's whether we want to have it on exactly the same night as the Christmas lights, or whether we have it as part of our broader Christmas offer. I don't think we've quite decided yet, but it'd be interesting to know kind of where that falls in terms of pricing, because of course it may be cheaper to have it as a separate thing or not. I just don't know. It was just it's an idea that a number of residents have approached me about, and now I wanted to take it forward as best we can. Yeah. So, yep. Councillor Strachan, yeah.
Suggestion with the laser lights, it was one of the add-ons outside the basic tender. So if it's their laser lights are as an add-on which we may or may not want.
Oh, so is that for not a separate event, but for the whole of the Christmas lights? All of the Christmas light displays will also add on laser lights in the market square, like we've done before. Just want to know the specifics.
Yeah, I think we're looking at maybe having that as a separate Christmas event rather than. I think that's where things are going, rather than as part of the Christmas lights.
But I thought was it could be included as one of the add-ons, like the additional lights down Shortmead Street or Station Road. It would be an add-on which is an option rather than a certainty, so they can quote and we can find out how much it would be.
Okay.
Yeah.
For an event.
Not just one day.
Or an event, so maybe a couple. I think we've done it previously. I think, haven't we?
Over multiple evenings, yeah. There was multiple
over
evenings,
as like a 2 or 3 week, so on a Friday or Saturday. The way we did it during COVID actually worked really well. It brought people into the market square on other days, not just a Christmas light switch on. And I think if we can certainly explore the option, but it's not. It's tied into the Christmas light tender, but is a sort of an event rather than. It's part of this brief, but not actually out of this budget. It almost comes out of the events budget.
Okay.
That sounds good. Right, I'm trying to make sense of where we're going with this now. Okay, so we've got the bit about the timescale and the procurement already decided. So I think whatever, Councillor Foster, do you want to sort of say what you can you sum up your points, and we can use that as a motion.
So a cohesive set of lights. We've got the standard, the 24 lights that are on in the tender as is, an additional 3 lights in Shortmead Street and in Station Road, and then asked that they also tender for a laser light for, let's say, three weekends up to Christmas. Yeah. But they are the last 2 elements are separate to the main Christmas light design, and that when it comes to the design, we're looking for the sort of the colours to match.
Okay, sounds good. All those in favour? Actually, as a second, I think Councillor Barrett already seconded it before the motion. But anyway, all those in favour? Great, unanimous. Thank you very much. Hopefully, I'll give some clarity, and we'll continue these conversations. Thank you. I think we're on to 10A now, Drove Road Chapel report. Yep, okay. Over to you, Mr. Campbell.
Yep, Grove Road Chapel report. Delighted to say that we've reached the end of the road with that. And this is a closing report. It's been a 3-year period of restoration. It's now been completed on the 31st of January. The main bits really being just to finish off some repairs to the windows and the protective covers. Those are the things which were taking time, and the weather was causing delays. This report closes the project. The unconsecrated side of the chapel is there to be repurposed. It's been made fit for being marketed, which is being actively done by my colleague Ernest here. The project has actually been delivered 6 months early, and we're recommending that sometime in early spring 2025 we have some sort of unveiling of the restored building, supported by appropriate communications and publicity, and an opening ceremony. The project manager's report is attached for your information. Job done and closed.
Great, thank you very much, Mr. Campbell. Councillor Barrett.
Excellent project. Excellent in the way it's been carried out. So I think it should be plaudits passed on to officers for doing that. Just a small point on the page 56, where it talks about the normal the overall expenditure is consistent with expectations, creates a small underspend. I think that's on the additional spend from the original budget. I think the original budget was about 140k, and I think due to vandalism, we had to spend more money. So it might just be worth pointing out at that point in the paper that that was the case, rather than sort of suggesting we underspent. We didn't really.
You underspent on a revised budget rather than the original budget. Okay, no, that's fair. Okay, any other questions, comments? Councillor Strawn and Councillor Foster.
I think brilliant project. I'm glad it's been done, but I think we should also note the consultant's report, and in particular the need for ongoing cyclical maintenance. And I think it's important that in addition to the recommendations that we note, that also that we instruct officers to prepare a schedule of routine maintenance inspection so that we are kept up to date on that, because that's a recommendation there. And whilst we congratulate ourselves on what may have been achieved, it's no good congratulating ourselves on that if we then forget about the other fact that we must keep on top of this so that we do not let it fall into disrepair in the future by not following it through. So I think it's essential that we add to the recommendations that are set out there that we recommend that officers prepare a schedule of regular inspection, maintenance and repair with a view to reporting to TCM on a regular basis.
Thank you, Councillor Strawn. Mr. Board, do you want to say anything on that particular point?
Yeah, thank you very much. So it's not just this project alone or this asset alone. So all assets of the council, there is a comprehensive maintenance program in place with the public realm manager and the head of governance as well. So at some point, we've been looking at it operationally, but at some point we will report to TCM about all this maintenance program, which will be going on now and future as well.
Thank you, Councillor Strawn.
Our reason I'm putting forward this proposal is so that it's formally minuted.
Okay.
And it's shown that we have actually exercised due diligence as a committee in highlighting that particular issue. I think to just accept the noted recommendations as put forward by the officers without raising the point shows that we haven't necessarily been paid our due diligence and attention to detail. So I think it's essential that we as a committee make that point, and it's included in the recommendation,
Okay.
hence the proposal.
Okay, if there's a seconder for the proposal, Councillor Barrett. Okay, all those in favour of Councillor Strawn's proposal about maintenance. Okay, yeah, all those in favour. Thanks. Yeah, unanimous. Thank you. Yeah, final word on this one. I mean, I think it's great that we've now got this amazing Victorian building sort of back in play as a, potentially as a facility for the town. So I think, well done to officers for pushing that through. And it's been, it's been a long process, but it'd be great to see it, back open and being used. So thank you. 10B, Biggleswade Carnival Fair. It is only an item for information, but I guess if anyone's got any questions, now's the time to answer or ask them rather. Councillor Strawn.
Point of clarification. I appreciate if I've understood the report correctly, that there will be no carnival parade, but I believe the carnival is still going ahead with the main feature being a duck race. But is the duck race the only thing? Because it's not clear from the report as to what that situation is.
I had understood that to be the case, and it would be helpful, I guess, to list when the duck race is, and it's in early June, but I'm not 100% sure. But I don't know if maybe Mr. Campbell wants to sort of comment on that.
Just a quick comment on that. Yes, I've had discussions with the Carnival committee organisers. They regret they don't have the capacity and the membership to run both the Carnival and the duck race, so they are dropping the Carnival. I did try to persuade them. I even waved some UK SPF money at them, but unfortunately, they just haven't got the capacity. So they are throwing everything at the duck race, and they're hoping that's going to be a bigger event. They've been talking to the cricket and the football clubs so they can expand the patch, and that is the the strategy at the moment is to not run the carnival event, but to max out the duck race event, make that the main event.
Thank you. Councillor
For
Strawn.
the sake of clarification, is Mr Campbell saying that the only thing on the carnival is going to be the duck race? I appreciate there's going to be no parade, but is he saying that the only event is going to be the duck race because in the past they've had darts competitions, quizzes and things like that?
Mr Campbell.
At the moment, the only information I have is that the carnival is off and the duck race is on. I think many of the other events take place not exactly simultaneously, but over a season. I should have to check that out with the organisers as to what else is occurring. I think the main problem is they just haven't got the manpower.
I think, I mean, from my knowledge of these things, I know there are other sort of add-on events around the carnival, but some of them are quite small scale, you know, involving sort of quizzes or children's dance competitions, which probably don't necessarily need the involvement of the council. But I know they have got the aspirations around the duck race to make it more of a summer fair type idea as it was last year, I think, to build on as it was last year. So I think, yeah, sadly the carnival parade I think is probably gone for the time being, but I think focusing on the duck race and the summer fair I think is what they're trying to achieve. So yeah, does that answer your question, Councillor Strawn?
No, but
okay.
I'm not going to get the answer.
All right,
tonight,
okay.
So.
Well, if Mr Campbell finds out any further information, or I do, I will happily circulate it to colleagues. Okay, Councillor Barrett.
We are asking the paper to note the officers' hard work today on the ongoing UK SBF. So I think if we're doing anything, we should be doing that as part of this.
Well, no, that's we're still on 10B, still on 10B. It's all right, don't worry. I'm gonna say I thought I hadn't got to that point yet, but that's okay. Great, okay, and I guess when we know when the duck race is, we'll circulate the date to colleagues as well, just so they're aware. Okay, 10C, market policy, and then we'll get to SPF after that. Sorry. Yeah, Mr. Bull, please. Thank you.
As Councillor Foster mentioned, the document for the town centre vision did not print properly, so we have a copy which my colleague Fonda will be more than happy to give them to members, please. So this is a bigger version and a wider version, which is better than what has been circulated already.
No, we're talking about the market policy. Hang on, sorry, Mr. Bull. No, hang on. Yeah, just Helen, you can hand them out now. It's fine, but we're actually talking about 10C, which is the market policy, not the market square. We're going to get to that in a minute. Okay. It's okay. So I mean, I think the market policy, as far as I can see as the chairman, it is what it is because it's a lot of it's about Martin's law and changes in legislation. But if anybody, okay, all right.
So a copy of the policy wasn't included in the agenda.
Yeah.
Just
okay.
Like that is obviously apparent. I'm guessing that was because it was thought it wasn't needed.
Yeah, I think Mr. Campbell's getting a paper, so we just bear with him a moment. Pause for a moment or two, and then I'll take Councillor North's question when Mr. Campbell returns. Okay, I'm aware that there is only the text in the main agenda relating to the market policy item. Mr. Campbell, do you want to just talk about that for the minute, or do we want to sort of bring this back to another meeting? Because I'm conscious that colleagues have not had the paper relating to this.
Not even sure I've got the paper.
I move that we circulate this by email and bring it back to TCM on in April.
Okay, so it's going to be okay. All right, we'll do that then. Councillor North, I know you had a question about this. Did you, is it?
Well, it wasn't a question.
It's been
it was just to
answered.
say,
or-
well, let's just note the comment that's in the minutes and accept
Okay.
it. But now we're saying bring it back to April. Well,
Okay, I think that's fine. I mean, I think if we're being asked to review a policy, I realise it's for information, but I think it would be helpful to have a comparison of the policy to see what we're being, you know, asked to note, so to speak. So yes, if we can note that, and make sure it comes back in April, please. Yeah.
If I could just update.
Okay.
Basically, although it's an old policy, it was taken to be fit for purpose. And really, there are only two things which would come up as a result of an update. One of those relates to Martin's Law, which is the extra security stuff to do with anti-terrorism. The second one is some changes to regulations when the market square gets rewired by CBC. And that is a condition that market traders using electrical equipment will have to have it, what we colloquially call PAT tested, and that we would test that, we would record it, we would charge them for the privilege, and then we would have the records.
Okay, I think that's quite a helpful summary. Councillor Strawn.
The observation I make there, which we might consider at the next TCM meeting, is that certainly there's things that are going to be changed. Martin's Law, it might be something that if we're reviewing it, there may be mentioned that it may just be saying we comply with all legislative requirements, which would cover it. But also with regard to the electrics, that is something that there may be just a wording to put into the policy so that it's there for when the CBC have actually carried out the upgrade. That might be those 2 points. We might, if we're reviewing it, we might as well have those points covered as observations to possibly add in.
I think so. I mean, I think with the Martin's Law issue, in a lot of its legislation, we need to do it. I guess some of it's about the scale of it, and the second point about the electrical stuff in the market square is valid, and it's something I know the full council's raised as an important issue on previous occasions as well. So if we can incorporate that into a future paper at April's TCM, that would be appreciated. Okay. UK SPF D. Councillor Barrett, did you have a question on that one?
Yeah, I'd like to, note that the hard work to date on the ongoing UK SPF Cultural Events Delivery Partnership.
Yep, I think that's noted. And from the chair, I just want to say thank you for all the hard work that's been going on that as well. I know it's nice to see little projects around the town and with different organisations benefiting from that. And I think that's been a really, helpful and constructive thing to do. So thank you all. Right, okay. 10E, permanent licence application for Joe's Ices Limited. It is to note, if anybody's got any questions or if Mr. Campbell wants to comment, I know have you spoken to the person concerned?
I have indeed met her on a few occasions at Crystal Light Switch on and such like. Not much to be said, really. She has contacted us out of courtesy. I've told her we're not the planning authority. She thought that we could put in a word for her, at least we could show our approval. I said it wasn't for us to do that. Here's a letter for your information. I can't really say much more than that.
Okay, Councillor North.
I think my only comment on this is that okay, it's only one person, one van, but it just seems to me to represent a degree of unfair competition to the other businesses in a town centre that have to pay rent and they have to pay business rates, and these people don't, and they have much lower operating costs. And maybe that is not unfair competition. Maybe that's fair competition. But it's just a thought that occurs to me that they will be taking business away from people who have higher overheads. Okay.
Councillor Strawn.
I think similar observations have been made in the past by members of this council and concerns over that. And there's also the potential, for, as I understand it, for a further loss of parking spaces during the week. So I have concerns over that. It may not be within our remit to support or object or grant anything, but I do have those concerns for those who are paying business rates, which are quite considerable, I believe, in the town centre, whilst this type of trading, I don't believe, has those overheads when also you look at rents and things like that. So I think we've got to be very cautious that this may be all right, but it could be setting a precedent that we could find that all our parking spaces are effectively taken over by this kind of thing, which would not be a good thing.
Thank you. Councillor Skilton.
Yeah, I mean, might it be worth getting CBC's policy on when they grant licenses, because in the local authority I work for, that is considered when street trading licenses are granted outside of markets. And so obviously we're the market authority and we grant market trading. You could say some shops might say that's unfair competition because their rates are a lot less than a rent. So yeah, I don't know if CBC consider that. It might be worth considering.
Thank you. Mr. Campbell.
Just to come back on it, we've already got Mario's jerk chicken bag in there. I think the opinion is that Mario's got a golden ticket, really, and the ice cream van, Joe's Ice Cream, would be a second golden ticket. It's a question of how many of those can we actually entertain on the market square, because it will be filling up, and it does give people, take Councillor Strawn's point, is it an unfair advantage to actually have that license? Because what about the other ice cream and what about the other takeaways?
Okay, Councillor Skilton again, then Councillor Barrett, then Councillor Strawn.
I just want it noted that I take exception to the term golden ticket for people. I think the Jerk Hub, I don't know what about this ice cream van, let's see how it pans out, but I think the Jerk Hub is a really valuable business in the town. I know there's some councillors that have a problem with it and they're vocal about it publicly and in meetings. And actually, if you see the hard work that goes into running that place, you know, that's no unfair advantage to anyone running a business in that market square, and it is well used, well attended, and I've never heard anyone say a bad word about the food that comes out of there. And so I think, you know, actually, well managed street trading in or outside of a market is a real asset to a town centre, and I'd hope an ice cream van would add to that. And off the top of my head, I can't think of any other ice cream shops in the town.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Barrett.
I was just going to say pretty much the same things, but just to point out that we're only being asked to note this as a letter. We're not being asked to make a decision on anything this evening. So I'd like to propose that we note the letter and wait for the application.
Okay, and Councillor Strawn.
I've got no difficulty with that, but it might be worthwhile just contacting CBC for clarification over their policy of granting these as to, as I say, these may be perfectly appropriate, but my concern is how far is it going to extend? Because, as I say, we could theoretically have these licenses granted so that we have all our parking spaces taken up by these businesses. Which, where does it stop? It's fine. This will be what it will be, and but it's just for the future that we've got to look and make sure that we protect the market square overall.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Strawn. I think Councillor Barrett's hit the nail on the head. I think we are asked to note it. I think from the chair, if you can, officers can keep this committee appraised of any future applications and we'll just, it was something I guess we just need to monitor as a committee and work out if we need to intervene or not. But it's something that obviously we need to take an interest in. But it kind of is what it is at the moment. Okay, thank you for that. Okay, so we no longer have any exempt items. So I'm going to take item number. Go to public opens. Well, do we need public open? I'll do it at the end I'll do it after 12. So we'll do the Market Square vision and then public open session. Yes. Yes. Can we do that? Move it. Yeah. Great. Thank you. Okay, so we'll have the Market Square vision now. So the new 11, I guess, on the agenda. So, okay, who wants to lead on this? Mr. Campbell. Okay, Market Square vision.
There you go. Yeah. Right. There have been a series of meetings on the Market Square vision. 13th of February 24, 6th of August 24, 29th of October 24, which have culminated in this exercise. A modest amount was found. Officers have worked with consultants around the status specification. Consultants have delivered a first draft document. It provides a strong marketing style document. Also includes graphic artist impressions and the agreement with the consultants, because this was a budget piece of work, should we say, was that there would be a single series of amendments and improvements at the conclusion, which is where we are now, within the overall modest budget. So it is a one hit to get all the changes, all the amendments in to the next revision, plus some that we've got as officers, anything you want to add as members, and then that all goes into the final version. We haven't got the time or the money to go back and do it and iterate second and third times. So members will have until Monday the 3rd of March to submit any comments and changes, please. The indicative timeline really is following the 11th of March members' resolution. It should follow that share the final version with CBC, Highways, BRCC and other partners. Highways conducts a highways transport loop study, which is apparently something they have funding for, but will have some impact on this. Draft BTC version shared with partners prior to the highway study could be presented at the April BTC Business Forum event. Once the highway study results are known, the partners' endorsed version document could be publicly consulted upon using regular channels. Of course, we've also raising it publicly tonight. Members, please note strong progress officers have made towards producing a new professional version of the agreed Market Square vision document and the highly collaborative and productive partnership with the consultants. And we will bring a final version to you with all the changes and inclusions by the 11th of March to a full council meeting. To take you through the large and colourful publication, gives you some idea of what the version will be. I proofread it today and I've picked up on half a dozen things that need changing and amending. And there's also a list there of notes to the illustrations which are not to that one, but to the updated illustrations which are on the back of it. So we've got all those to look at and relate to the commentary on the first page.
That's page 79 in the pack. If you need notes to illustrations.
Yeah.
Page 79 to 86 if you need to match the two together. I think what we'll do is we'll pause for a moment, and if anybody hasn't had a chance to have a quick look, can give everyone a couple of minutes if they want to have a look. Councillor Barrett. Yes. Yep. Yep.
On the right-hand side, it says design and development concepts. The first one, key design principle, says create a pedestrianised square. I thought that wording was consider a pedestrianised square. The create suggests that we've already made that decision. I thought we said consider.
Okay, Councillor Strawn.
Right, Chairman, I'm not happy with this document.
Okay.
I've had a chance to look at it. I got kindly provided with the print a little bit earlier because the original one with the agenda was too small to review in the paperwork. But here, and one of the reasons why I feel it's important that this is in public, is that this is creating a policy and a vision. And we are deciding and creating something without any consultation whatsoever with the public and what the people of the town think. There are issues in here that I think are impractical from a physical point of view. The concept may be brilliant, but I think we've got to look at the practical implication of how all this is going to work. There's suggestion of considerably more traffic calming down the high street. We've already got traffic calming down the high street. Yes, there need to be improvements at, say, the Marketplace Hitchin Street junction, but they're not really covered. There's visions about how these things are going to look, but there is going to be some physical work that is going to be needed, and it's far more than that. And to come to a meeting and approve this or be given a fortnight to go through it, because I've got red pen all over it so far. And I think it needs a lot more thought with respect. And I appreciate I haven't been able to attend the meeting, so I can congratulate officers and colleagues for having got this far. But I think this is far too important a document to rush. This is the future of the town. We've had comments about what happened back in the 90s when the town centre was upgraded and is laid out as it is. And if you just look at one part, the junction as you go off into Hitchin Street from the Market Square, I very seldom see a car not running over the pedestrian area when it goes down there. It clearly doesn't work. There are practicalities here. We've got to consider that the High Street is in fact a main through route. If the A1 is closed, where will the traffic be redirected? It'll be redirected through the town centre. This requires a lot of thought and a lot of comment. And I think that whilst we need a vision and we need to put it out there, I think it will need to go out to observations of the public before we start necessarily consulting with our partners. So I've got lots of concerns here. And as to going through it and coming back with their, we've already heard the comment about consider rather than create. Consider is a far more appropriate word for a vision than that. And to come here, we're basically setting out a policy here, if it goes through on the wording here, that is actually a fait accompli as far as the public is concerned. And that, to my mind, is not acceptable. But those are my observations from having a comparatively brief look, rather as Councillor Skills was making a comment earlier about looking through documents. I had the opportunity to look through the full-size document last night because I raised a question yesterday morning. And so I've got observations on it, but I've got far from exhaustive.
Okay, I take your point, Councillor Strawn. I just want to draw attention to the point I think Councillor Barrett raised when we decided to take it out of exempt, that the papers were going to be in draft. Just want to re-emphasise that point, that it's that is very much a draft document, and I totally agree. We do need some element of public consultation. Quite in what that form we need to decide, of course. But yes, of course, the public do need to be consulted at some stage. But it is very much in the draft stage. Councillor North, then Councillor Skilton, please.
Well, just a couple of comments, and I think one maybe Councillor Barrett may have raised it, the issue of Market Street and pedestrianisation of Market Street. Is that what you were talking about? Because I don't think that was ever decided that we would pedestrianise it. In fact, there were quite strong views against it, and I think it would cause a lot of problems if it were pedestrianised. The second point relates to Hitchin Street. They talk about, what is it, reanimating Hitchin Street. Well, as Councillor Strawn pointed out, there's endless that people drive over the pedestrian area because it's not entirely clear where the pedestrian area is. People illegally park, and part of the reason for that is that it's utterly inadequate signage as to where parking is permitted and where it's not permitted. It's just totally useless, and that's an issue that's an issue that I mean, if that counts as reanimating, then yes, we can do it. But and the other point is Bonds Lane. Somewhere there's a mention of Bonds Lane in this. Well, Bonds Lane at the present time is an absolute disgrace, with rubbish. Certainly the Hitchin Street end of it, it's absolutely appalling. And I don't know why Central Beds don't do something about it. It is fly tipping really down there by the businesses who are not putting their rubbish in proper containers. And I mean that is absolutely awful. If you talk about improving the town centre, I mean the top end of Bonds Lane must be one of the main parts that needs to be addressed, make it look nicer. So those are my comments.
On the Bonds Lane point, both myself as chair and Councillor Patel as deputy chair have raised this issue with officers here, and also one of our ward councillors has raised it with Central Beds directly in their environmental health team. I can let you know what they said, but it was a bit weak, if I'm honest, the response we got from Central Beds. But we will continue to pursue it, and you know, I'm going to try and get some action. But it wasn't an adequate response. But anyway, Councillor Skilton.
Thank you. My first thought on this was, where's the rest of it? Because the last time I saw a copy of a town centre vision, it was about 30 pages long and had tons and tons of detail in it. There were things like the removal of Century House was being considered, the changing of White Hart car park into a piazza was being considered, with various changes to bus stop and bus station configurations, the layout of the highway, even the way traffic was going to be directed through the town. There, we went to consultants, experts in public realm design, and some members decided they didn't like what they seen, even though none of us are public realm design experts, and they just decided to do away with that. And I think it's a shameful waste of money. And I can't remember how much we spent on it, and I can't say because it's probably an exempt. But to get this after all the work we've put in, this is, you know, it's unambitious at best. I think really, there's so much more we could do with our market square, and we're not even considering half of it in this document. We're not even considering a tenth of it. If you look at neighbouring towns like St Neots or Hitchin that have got market squares, and go and just look at the quality of the public realm. Our paving is these rough clay blocks, and you go to St Neots or Hitchin and they've got proper quality old-fashioned cobbles or flame-picked granite where it looks fantastic. And I think we need to be, you know, really saying we want an A1 market square, and I don't think this is delivering it. The second point to note is that we're not the highway authority. We cannot even make the decision on this. All we can do is say what our aspirations are, but CBC as a highway authority could quite legitimately come in and do whatever they want in that market square as public highway, and we could be a consultee, but they're not obliged to do anything other than consider our comments. So yeah, this feels like we've wasted a year of work on this, to be honest, and I'm disappointed with this document, all told.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Barrett.
I can't disagree with many of the comments already made already, but I thought the document was to enable us to get to a point where we had a document that we could then take to others, whether that be the public or whether that be central beds, to say this is our initial vision, but we wanted to have a reasonably professional looking document. It wouldn't necessarily have all of the key points that have been mentioned here, but that's the point we were trying to get to. And I don't think we're trying to create the answers to all of the questions around a town centre vision in this document. We're trying to create something that will create the debate. That was my understanding.
Okay, thank you. I mean, that had been my understanding as well, casting back, that it was more of a prospectus rather than perhaps a detailed technical document. But I do take Councillor Skilton's point around the Highways Authority. I think some of this originally came from requests from ward councillors and others in the executive, that to have a sort of oven-ready document, to coin a phrase, that you could then take away and have a look at it. But accepting the fact that, you know, they could do various things without our permission or potential input, but at least it's something that we've, I guess, thought through. Okay. Any further questions? Councillor Foster.
I think most of my thoughts have been made, but I think probably the key one, I mean, it does reference some of the key. I think the principle of this document there isn't a real problem with it. If the principle is to look at sort of a high level approach to it. My issue is that there's a deadline, number one. My issue is the fact that we're talking about something that we haven't really agreed on as a council. That the thing around the pedestrianisation of the market square, that wasn't agreed, and that there was my recollection was that it was a shared space option. We've made reference to Century House in the document, but we have no control over Century House. So again, it's an ambition. So the wording of the document here needs to sort of make reference some sort of consideration, I guess it's aspirational. Ultimately, you're right, Councillor Skilton. I mean, there's some things in there that we just don't have control over. But if it's just a principle, then okay, not too bad. But then the real detail behind it isn't there. I'm not sure where we go with this, because you go to the next council meeting and we've got to then get some agreement in principle, if that's what the officer's timeline is, where there's some key things here. Some members will be very clear they like the idea, and there's a danger we'll go back down the same road again where we've not got a consensus. Not sure where we go with that, but there's some key things here that I don't think have been properly agreed ultimately.
Okay, Councillor Skilton and then Councillor North, sorry. Yeah.
At the risk of making next TCM very busy, I move that we bring this back to TCM to discuss some of the finer points if we are committed to doing this, because I would actually like to see some more stuff from the old vision in here. If that, I don't even, if that is even a thing, if the old vision even exists.
Okay.
But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm obviously detecting from members there is clearly issues around things that have not been entirely settled as an agreed position on the council. I think we do need to get to that point. Otherwise, we are going to end up going around in circles with all of this, which we may well be doing already to some extent. Councillor North and Councillor Agnew.
Well, I just wanted to make the point. It was raised what was the point of it. Councillor Skilton quite rightly has said that we don't really have a great deal of power over any of this, parking restrictions, pedestrianisation, paving, or whatever. Because it. But the point of it was that to prepare something so that if somebody says to Biggleswade Town Council, what would you like to see, that we can go back to them and say that's what we would like to see. Rather than suddenly standing back saying, oh dear, we've never thought of that before. Let's think about what we would like to see. We're thinking about it in advance so that we can make these suggestions and recommendations to, obviously in reality, CBC. But I do think this is not really what I don't think this really meets that need. I think we need slightly more detailed, more specific issues that some people have mentioned around the table this afternoon. That's all.
Councillor Agnew, then Councillor Skilton, then Councillor Strong.
I'd like to agree with Councillor Skilton about the wasted year. Whilst I wouldn't put it that strongly, I believe that we're here because we're trying to make changes, and however small they are, they should be actually progressive. What we're seeing here is not quite there yet, but I'd say maybe this is because we are falling back onto pictures, but lacking the detailed Excel spreadsheets or whatever you would like to see underneath the pictures. I know that vision document has to be the document that is actually presentable so that anyone of us or the public for that matter who is not a specialist in town development can fairly agree or disagree with the concept. But we also have noted already, as rightfully said by all of you, a number of items that we had fundamentally make decisions about. And these items now seem seemingly missing. So I wonder whether we could actually slightly recreate the document and integrate not only pictures, but some kind of questionable items. For example, items that we completely agreed on, items we completely threw away that they were not conceptually correct for this town, and items where further conversation is required. And then my second point is, as already mentioned so many times, if CBC and any other external organizations to us have to be brought into the conversation about this, perhaps one of the solutions here or at the next meeting would be to create a number of events, meetings, or whatever discussions where they would be a part of this discussion, because otherwise we will just never move off from that stalemate. But I don't know how to propose it any other way, but actually try to start that dialogue.
Okay, Councillor, well, it's Councillor Skilton, then Councillor Strawn. So
thank you.
Okay.
Sorry, I've lost my thread.
I'll go to Councillor
Strawn.
Go to Councillor Strawn anyway. There we go. Then Councillor Skilton.
I think to a certain extent we've got ideas here, but I think we've also got to be challenging some of the ideas so that we've got an answer to the problem, because the very first item, public parking to public square. Now, the big question here, and the elephant in the room, is what happens to the vehicles that would park on the market square at present, because there's no solution to that alternative. So if we're looking at it totally pedestrianised, there are going to be loads of questions asked, and this is what it's actually suggesting. So if we're going to if that was the wish of the council to do it, I think we would have to have an answer to the question. I'm against the total pedestrianisation, but the way it's put is we'd actually be getting rid of all the parking in the market square. So it might be a nice vision, and that's why I think it should be public to have the discussion. But if we are going to have a vision like that, say getting rid of all the parking, what is the solution? How are people going to get into the market square, the elderly and disabled who may actually need to get cars there? So it's not just creating a vision, but you've got to be able to have an answer to the problems that it's going to cause. So that's just that was just a starting point when I first looked at it, without all the other points that cause me concern. So I think we've just got to look at very much how we're going to look at this and present this, and what we'd actually would like to see. And if we do want to make anything radical, we've got to have an answer to the question before we put forward the solution, the actual proposal.
Okay. I mean, I think Councillor Agnew was also hinting actually at some of the similar stuff, in that you need the vision that sits there, which could be this or could be something else. And then you've got the sort of appendices, for want of a better phrase, underneath, with perhaps some of the more technical points, perhaps. But Councillor Skilton, if you remembered your question.
I have remembered. Yeah, sorry. It was just.
And then I'll come to Councillor Barrett.
Thank you, Chair. So it was. We're 6 individuals that, in the scheme of this town, we may be town councillors, but it's not for us to say what that market square looks like. It's for the people of Biggleswade to say. And I think actually there's an opportunity to do some really good consultation here, because we're not the highway authority and we actually can't make this decision. We can make this as aspirational as we want it to be. It's, you know, CBC are the ones that when they do a consultation, they know what the answer is. I'm probably speaking out of turn, but they probably know what the general answer is when they ask the question, he said cynically. But for the, highway schemes and things like that, where we can't make that decision. So it's a really good opportunity for us to engage with the public. And every business on that market square is going to have a view on that, and we should consider that before this gets anywhere near council. And also the members of the public who are arriving at that town square, people with pushchairs, wheelchairs, people who drive there, people who walk there, people who get public transport there, what are the links from the train station? There are so many things that need to be considered, and this is such a thin document. I just don't think this is anywhere near detailed enough.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Barrett.
So in terms of a way forward,
thank you.
We originally started this as a working group, and that working group had a number of councillors and others and the consultants in the room. And then we stopped the working group, and then it went to officers, which is where we got to with this. So my proposal is that rather than take to TCM the next stage, I think the working group needs to reconvene with as many additions as required to get the right messages across, get this right. Okay, with all the comments that have been made this evening in different stages, I don't think it goes to TCM. I think it would go to council in April. And then at that point, once we've all agreed, I absolutely agree, that's the point we take it to consultation with the public. But to take it to consultation with the public, we have to have something that has gravitas and thought through. I don't think we do it the other way around at this stage. That would be my proposal.
Got a seconder for that, Councillor Strawn?
I'm not sure whether we'll be ready to go to council in April. I think that, but on a very serious note, if we are going to have a working group, could I ask that for those of us that work full time, that we actually have a working group and one of the spare council evenings rather than during the day, because this is something that you can't do justice to in just a 1 hour session. And that's what the working group, I think, has probably been doing in the past. If we are going to have a working group to try and get something that we can actually go out to the members of the public with as a proposal, having gone to council to work out what we want, we must have the opportunity to have all council members attending. And I think in that respect, we're more likely to get better presence in the evening than we are during the middle of the day, working day.
Councillor Skilton, do you want to comment any further, or okay? Right. So all those in favour of the proposal put forward by Councillor Barrett? Okay. Second. I thought you'd seconded it, Councillor Strawn. I thought Councillor Strawn already seconded it about pulling together. I'll try and rephrase it. Pulling together a document that's for the next potentially April council meeting.
Do you want to say?
Go on.
What I suggested was that we reconvene the working group first, and the working group would seek to get the document correct with as many of the comments from councillors and the things that may or may not have been missed, that we would then look to in the evening And we would look to potentially bring that forward then to council in April, if it's completed by that point. And then after that meeting, we would seek to get agreement from council that it goes to wider consultation with public and CBC and others.
Okay, that's pretty clear. All those in favour of that proposal? Because councillor Strawn seconded it, so we've got a motion. 1, 2. Okay. Okay, so is that, can you, yes, 4, so that's, okay, that's 4, it's a majority anyway, okay. Actually, no, it's not, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, okay. All those against? Abstentions? Okay, 1 abstention then, okay. Thank you. Hopefully that will provide some more clarity or some clarity as to how we take things forward. Thank you all for bearing with me this evening. It was a bit of a unusual council meeting, but there we go. I don't think there's anything else we need to add. Oh, there is public session, public open sessions. Anyone online? Didn't think there would be. Okay, great. Okay, well, that's the end of the